Hello and welcome to the Cheese and Alien Show. I will be your host again this week, the Cheese, due to some of our switching around that we did in the past few weeks. For this week, I'd like to start off with a congratulations to Johnny Sauter for his win in the truck race at Texas. I had to miss the race, but glad to see that one of the drivers I like to cheer for won, since his crew chief and I know at least a couple of his crew members are all from right around here where I grew up. It's always fun to cheer for Johnny Sauter and see him go to victory lane. And our other winner, Joey Logano in the Cup Series, finally had a pole winner win a race. It was the longest streak in quite a while, and for winning the long, tricky race at Pocono. And even though I missed the truck race, I'll give a quick shout out to Ty Dillon for extending his top 10 streak that I mentioned last week, that he broke the rookie record for most top 10s, I believe, at the beginning of the season or within so many races. And it sounded like it was a good race. Sad I missed it, but I was at a concert instead. I had to take the opportunity to go to that while some of these great bands were in town for the weekend. Cup shout-outs then start off with Mark Martin for a hard-fought second place. The Alien and I were both cheering him on. He's my grandma's favorite driver, being from Arkansas. We would have liked to see him get that win, and I really would like to see him get that win. Kind of shove it in Hendrick's face that he switched to this part-time driving job on a smaller team, and he's got an even better car than he'd had in the last couple of years. So glad to see Mark Martin back at the front again. Next shout out to David Ruderman. Now, I know he's been kind of jumping around in all sorts of cars this year and filled in the 51 for Phoenix Racing while Kurt Busch was on probation, but glad to see that David could jump into this car and still have a strong finish of 21st. So happy for him. Next shout out would be to the 99 crew for their big rebound after the multiple penalties that NASCAR stuck on Carl Edwards. There was a lot of shouting going on in this household, but glad to see they were able to knock off a pretty decent finish at a tricky track after all that adversity. And the last shout out from the Cup race would be to Matt Kenseth for taking the points lead. I know you don't want to do it by seeing your teammates struggle and lose that lead, but Matt's definitely earned it in some strong finishes this season. Even though he hasn't won since Daytona, glad to see he's up at the top of the points now. And the big topic from this race, the Cup race anyways, was all of the penalties going on pit road. Was it really NASCAR to blame? I know I was yelling at them quite a bit during the race. Or was it the crews themselves? And I had been blaming NASCAR, like I think most of us probably had, but I'd read an interesting article by Mike Kalanoff, the spotter for Matt Kenseth and Ricky Stenhouse and Nelson Piquet in the Truck Series. And he had said that NASCAR had handed out the map of the timing segments like they do every week at each track, and it was obvious that it had changed slightly from last year. I think he said there was like a couple extra segments or a couple less, something along those lines, and you could see every single one of them was in a completely different place from last year, and most of the teams just tend to toss it over their shoulder, not pay attention to it. They just assume it's the same as what it was, and a lot of them paid the price. And if you were paying attention, that Matt Kenseth didn't get busted for speeding, along with most of the other big names in the series. There might be something to that. I know he was one that was pitting late and had some warning as well, but I think crew chiefs are going to have to pay attention a little bit more when they get these pit road timing segment sheets each race, especially with all of the new track configurations. And I think I saw something that it's been like 5 tracks have been repaved in the last 2 years. We have Michigan coming up this weekend, and Pocono was new, and Kansas is getting redone, Bristol's getting redone. We have all these tracks are changing, and it's not just the surface that changes. You have to pay attention to all these things on pit road as well, especially with the competition being so close. Now, one other thing from the race that I will blame on NASCAR is once again they tried to fix the race to get Dale Jr. to victory lane, because none of us ever saw the debris towards the end of the race when they threw the debris caution. Right after, as usual, the TV crews were talking about how oh, Junior could use use a caution right now and bring him up front to the close to the front of the pack so he can get by all them. He's got more fuel and newer tires and all this. And then it's like all of a sudden we have this mysterious debris caution that always seems to come up. Now I know they say just because they don't show the debris doesn't mean it was there, but kind of makes me question when this is probably the 10th time that I can at least remember that we've thrown a caution that benefits only a few drivers, and that 88 always seems to be on that list of drivers that benefits from it. And once again, where does he finish? 8th, I believe? Still doesn't work, NASCAR, so you might as well stop rigging the races. Just my opinion, but getting kind of tired of it as one of the few people who's not a huge Dale Jr. fan. And the last big news from this week is that Kurt Busch will be staying at Phoenix Racing, at least for now. We all know, it's well documented, there's no contract there, and that James Finch is about the only one who still kind of believes in Kurt, but I think if I was in his position, I would take a talented driver like Kurt and keep him in that car as long as NASCAR let me. So props to James Finch for keeping up his faith and patience, most importantly, in Kurt Busch, keeping him in that 51 ride for now. Next up this weekend, we have Michigan, second week in a row with a brand new paved track, and we also have Austin Dillon making his, I believe, second Cup start this weekend. Hopefully, he'll be trying to qualify anyway. So we wish good luck to him on that, and good luck to all the drivers dealing with the new pavement. Sounds like it's going to be a really fast race. Wish I could make the drive up there, but I can't. Hopefully, soon enough, the alien and I will be at a NASCAR race. She'll be here 1 week from today. So maybe next week, or definitely the week after, you'll have both of the hosts, finally, of our show on here together. And last but not least, we had a very, very close week in fantasy points. And I thought after the alien had forgot to change her ESPN fantasy team that might have been an easy win for me. She went and checked it and ended up with like 20 points more than I did. But overall, all of our points added together, I won by the very narrow margin of 2.5 points. Not our closest victory, but I think it's the first close one that I've actually benefited from. So, excited to share that I won fantasy for the second week in a row. Hope you enjoy your weekend, and looking forward to a great weekend of racing in Michigan.